Okay, hello and welcome to another video. So this one is going to be quite long. We are going to cover every single card that has now been released for the new set. Of course, the release of the set is only a couple of days away as of making this video, so we should be very keen on that. But if you want to see every single card, you can go to the link in the description. They have all been posted on the official Shadowverse webpage. I believe there was an issue with Portal not having a gold and stuff. If that is an issue, I'll get that at the end and we'll make sure to cover that. But if it's on here, all good. So, of course, we're going to kick things off with Forest, because Forest is obviously on top. So, the first card, obviously, they show here is the Legendary Korra. We looked at most of these cards in my previous videos. Now we're just giving a full overview of the set and the cards that we're getting. So, Fanfare, give your leader the following effect at the start of your turn. Put a field into your hand. Put 2 fields into your hand. Instead, if at least 4 damage was dealt to the leader during your opponent's previous turn. This effect is not stackable and lasts for the rest of the match. Fanfare enhance 8. Put 3 fields into your hand. Recover 3 play points. So, it doesn't actually give me like the token card here for the fills. They're normally right at the end. So, if I go... No, can't go that way. Okay. So, they don't make it easy to obviously view everything that we want to view here. There we go. But it's give an allied follower +0/+1 if you have at least played 4 other fills this match. This follower can attack twice per turn, so it's pretty cool, honestly. Being able to just give your followers the ability to attack twice per turn is a really cool ability, and I hope we can see Forest has some really interesting plays off there. I'm not the biggest fan of Forest Craft itself, but maybe if we see more aggro variants of Forest and stuff, I could definitely get behind that. Then we have the God Hunter Seldon, the second legendary for Forest. It has Excel 2, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. Ward, Fanfare, deal 4 damage to an enemy follower if at least 2 other cards were played this turn. Then deal 2 damage to all enemy followers if at least 4 other cards were played this turn. So the 2 other cards and then the 4 other cards basically just builds up its damage effect and allows it to do more and become an area clear, which is quite nice. With the Accelerate 2, it's not too bad either. Of course, the 4 other played this turn is going to be really difficult unless you play, say, 4 fairies and then drop this, or you play a combination of spells and fairies and things like that. But on a whole, not a bad card, and I actually think this thing has some good potential, especially with deal 2 damage to enemy followers, its Excel effect, which makes it a very low-cost card. Look, then we have Merida, Peerless Shot, 4-drop 4/3 gold forest card. Clash, draw a card. Evolve, deal X damage to an enemy follower. X equals the number of cards in your hand. Clash, draw a card. So it obviously retains the clash, which is pretty normal, but having clash, draw a card I think is really nice, and the evolve effect is actually pretty decent considering it is based on hand size, so it does give you the ability to do some decent clears, although I think Insect Lord has the better value overall, although this is targetable, so I'll have to wait and see if this card becomes a pretty nice card for Forest to use more often. Then we have Shamu and Shama, Noble Kin. Fanfare, choose, put either a Shema's Antics or Shema's Gaze into your hand. Antics is a deal 2 damage to enemy follower, or soar 2 defense to your leader. And Gaze is a give an enemy follower -X, -0 until the end of the opponent's turn. X equals the number of other cards in your hand. So definitely focusing on hand size, which I don't mind. I do like hand size effects. Then we have the Silver Forest card Owl. So this is an 8-drop 6/6 silver. It does have Ambush, which is actually quite nice. Whenever this follower attacks, give -1, -0 to all enemy followers if Ambush is active. So if you can re-trigger Ambush a couple of times, this could be really effective. So I definitely think this has some potential. Maybe in Take 2 this could be an amazing card because it has got a decent stat line. But overall I think it might be awkward to play in normal Forest. Then we have a 5-drop 3/6 silver Ward. Whenever this follower attacks or defense is increased by a spell or effect, deal 1 damage to a random enemy follower. So this is just a pretty standard ping on buff cards. So buff it, ping, that's not too bad, but I'm pretty sure we have other cards that did very similar effects, and I don't know whether, because this is so high cost, whether the effect is actually overall worth it, although the Ward could play into this as a more defensive card. Then we have Sumatra, the Sacred Bow, 4-drop, 4/3 silver. I really don't like the 4/3 stat line on 4-drops, I just don't enjoy that. Fanfare, draw a card, so it does have a nice little draw effect, and whenever this follower attacks, deal 1 damage to all enemy followers on the Evo, so I think this is a pretty okay card actually, considering its effects, but I would have preferred stat line was flipped. I think then it would have a lot more versatility and be able to be played a lot easier. Then we have the 3-drop 2/3 Myconid. It's a mushroom, basically. It's an ambush, and that's pretty much all you really need to worry about with this card. It looks like we might get some more like ambush forest kind of decks where you can play the ambush cards and then buff them and attack with them and get some really good boards out of them, but we'll have to wait and see overall, because obviously this expansion is just introducing all the ambushes really heavily for Forest, so probably next expansion, if they continue on that route, we can definitely see a ambush Forest deck popping up more prevalent than what these cards will probably give it. So the next one is Devil Flower, a 2-drop 2/1 bronze card, fanfare, destroy an enemy amulet if at least 2 other cards were played this turn. This card I think is really good. I mean, most people are worried that Tenko Shrine is going to be super overpowered with the Haven cards, which when we get to that, I'll talk about them, but we have got a lot of amulet removal now, especially low cost stuff, so Devil Flower is a nice one. We have the neutral spell card that also is going to be quite good, so definitely getting ways to counter amulets, which should be interesting. Then we have the Utopian Fairy, a 2-drop 2/2 bronze, fanfare, enhance 5, give an allied follower +1/+2, restore 3 defense to your leader. Don't mind this too much. The enhance 5 is okay. Stat line, normal for a 2/2 drop, of course, so can't say it's a bad card. I think this is just in the kind of average level card. Then we have Fairy Refuge, a 1-drop amulet. If at least 2 other cards were played this turn and you have at least 1 play point, choose play this card as either Fairy's Yawn or Fairy's Awakening. Countdown 2 at the end of your turn, put a fairy into your hand. So this can be generally just a fairy buffing card, so add fairies to your hand just continuously. But then we have Fairy's Yawn, which at the end of your turn, select a random enemy follower. That's okay. And it can't attack. Yeah, we'll take that. That's pretty good. I mean, forcing the enemy not to be able to attack till the end of the turn isn't bad. Then Fairy's Awakening is during your opponent's turn, whenever an enemy follower attacks your leader, deal 1 damage to that follower. So very similar to Brambles, just on a little more played down one, because it does have to hit your face instead of your follower. So it's definitely not bad. It could work really well against things like maybe not Portal. I'm trying to think on what it could work well. I guess in the early game it could work really well, stop those really early 1-drops from dealing too much damage, but we'll just have to wait and see whether Fairy's Awakening becomes quite a good card. And then of course the Flee for the token. So that covers all the Forest cards. I think overall Forest has got a nice batch of cards. I don't really know where the decks are going to lean for Forest. I think they're definitely pushing a more control-y variant deck over a more aggro style deck, unfortunately, because I do actually enjoy the aggro decks a lot more for Forest than I do on the control decks, but it's not too bad overall. Then we have Sword, which is going to be pretty interesting, I think. I mean, we have Latham, which is a remake of the card, or the rework thing, so it's an 8-drop 8/7, which is quite good. Don't mind the stat line. Excel 2, summon 2 knights is actually quite a good card, so being able to summon 2 knights for 2 is going to be really versatile. Fanfare, give your leader the following effect: whenever an allied follower attacks, and at the end there are no allied knights in play, summon a knight. Whenever an allied follower that originally cost 1 play point comes into play, give it Storm. These effects are not stackable and last for the rest of the match, so I mean, whenever 1 play point comes into play, give it Storm. Definitely pushing that aggro archetype, or more aggressive archetype. I mean, as an 8-drop, it's definitely not going to be pushing too much aggro, but definitely not bad. I think this card has enough versatility that it's balanced out quite well, and its stats are actually pretty reasonable for an 8-drop. Then we have Zeta, Crimson Lancer. I actually really like Zeta's artwork. I think she's quite a nice looking card, and it's a 6-drop 6/5, so that's not too bad either. They've got their stat lines okay for a lot of these cards. I think they're definitely leaning towards the weaker health style, but that's alright. It does have Rush. Whenever this follower attacks, put a Beatrix Undying Blue into your hand if there's no allied Beatrix Undying Blue in play or in your hand. So you basically get 1 extra token card, which I believe, if we look, should be here somewhere. I wish they'd add them like the choose effects and just have them listed as tokens. That'd be a lot more better, but that's fine. So Beatrix Undying Blue is a 4-drop 4/2 legendary officer, of course. Storm, Fanfare, enhance 10, gain the ability to ignore ward and recover 6 play points. So it actually recovers 6 of your play points out of the 10 for the enhance, keeps its Storm, and can avoid being avoid ward, which means you can go straight to face. So a 4 damage on turn 10, assuming you've used your Evos, is actually pretty decent. I actually don't mind this card, especially with the gain 6 play points back. It means you could use this, you could play a couple more cards, and really develop your board quite nicely. So we'll get on and look at the rest of the cards now that token's out of the way. Of course, there are more tokens because this thing has heaps of choose cards. So 5-cost Dragon Knights. So choose, summon a Vayne, Immobile Knight, Siegfried, a Lancelot, or a Percival, Lord of Flames, of course. So enhance 8, choose 2 of the followers instead. So we'll start with Vayne. Vayne is at the end of your turn, gain +1/+0, and restore 3 defense to this follower. So restoring 3 defense to the follower is nice, and it gains an attack buff, which is both pretty good. So I actually really like this one, especially considering its stats are actually really decent. Of course, playing both is going to be hard because, of course, they are obviously going to be a choose. So this one is a 5-drop 3/3 Storm. Whenever this follower attacks, gain +1/+1 if an allied Vayne Immobile Knight is in play. So if you are using these on the Enhanced, they're actually really good because you can take advantage of both Vayne and Lancelot really well. Or you can go for the other combination of Siegfried and Percival. So Siegfried is a Bane Ward, which actually isn't bad at all. I mean, having Bane and Ward means it's an instant kill on pretty much anything that attacks it. And Percival is Gain Rush, while an allied Siegfried, Dragon Slayer, is in play. Whenever this follower attacks, gain +X +0. X equals the number of other allied followers in play. So you can guarantee it's going to be gaining at least one attack if you're playing this on an empty board, which is pretty decent. If you're playing it on a full board, you're going to be gaining +4. So really, really nice. I also really like Percival's artwork. While I don't like it that much, as I mentioned in the other videos that I've talked about, Percival, I can't remember where I was mentioning it, but he is the leader, and while I don't mind it, I honestly think the other leaders are nicer, but not a bad card overall, and I really want to test Dragon Knights out quite a bit. Then we have D, Secret Agent. So it's another officer card, which is pretty common these days. I mean, the other ones were, I think, officers and commander combinations. So Ambush, Fanfare, choose, put either an Ever Novice Knight or an Infiltrator into your hand. So the Novice Knight is just a 0-cost 2/2. Storm, evolve, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, which is actually really good. I think a 0-cost Storm is actually pretty amazing, although you do have to meet the... you do have to use the Fanfare choose, and the stats on this thing are not good. Obviously that makes up for it. And the Infiltrator is a spell, so it's a draw until you have X cards in your hand. X equals the number of cards in your opponent's hand. So this is just your kind of restocker card. I think this will be played in pretty much every kind of aggro deck out there for Sword, mainly because the draw effect gives you just a great way to restock, and you also have the chance to be aggressive with it. So you've got a really nice balance with this, plus having Ambush means it can't be hit initially. But if, of course, something like Tenko does become crazy and you're not killing it quickly, this card could be very weak against that. I also keep messing that up, but that's fine. So it's a 3-drop 2/3 Silver Charlotte Tiny Justice. Swordcraft Commander. Commander, always important to remember because it does combo nicely with all the other 3-drop commanders. So this one does have Ward, and with an Evo effect of all allied followers can't be damaged by spells and effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So this has the same sort of effect as Mangus, which is, or Mangus, yeah, Mangus? Yeah, great, okay. Same effect, same principle, does basically the same idea. Does have Ward, which means it has to be hit first, and giving all allied followers can't be damaged by spells and effects means that it pretty much has to be attacked into, which is okay, I don't mind that at all. Then we have 2-drop Age-Worn Weaponry, 2-drop Silver Amulets for Sword. If an allied Swordcraft follower is in play and you have at least 2 play points to choose, play this card as either a Great Shield or a Great Sword. Count down 2 at the end of your opponent's turn, summon a Knight. So you can play this as a Great Shield, which is countdown 1, Fanfare, give an allied Swordcraft follower +0/+1, last word summon a Shield Guardian. So I'm pretty sure the Shield Guardians aren't too crazy. I can't really, I have to look at the tokens I think, but the Shield Guardians are actually okay I think. And summoning a Knight is actually pretty good if you just play this as a vanilla, and then the Great Sword one is to summon... To go Fanfare, give an allied Swordcraft follower +1, of course, so same as the other one. Last word, summon a Heavy Knight, which both I believe were pretty okay. I might actually have to go through and take a look at those. They should be at the end of this list. No, they weren't, were they? Okay, so I can't remember which one the Shield Guardian was, but the Heavy Knights are usually pretty good. I'm pretty sure they're just a ward, like 1/2 ward or something, but they're pretty good, so that's not a bad card at all. 1-drop 1/1, Sell Sword Lucius. So what do we got? Fanfare, Enhance 5, destroy an enemy follower. That's pretty generic. That's as simple as you can get. It's Enhance 5, destroy a follower, summon a 1/1. That's okay, I guess. 4-drop 3/3 Bronze, Princess Tina. The end of your turn, put a random 1 play point Swordcraft follower from your deck into play. So this is actually one that I quite enjoy. This can work with the milling mechanic, being able to pull cards from your deck and put them into play for free. It's actually going to be pretty substantial. You're guaranteed to get at least 1 card, so you can basically guarantee that this is going to be at least a 4-drop 4/4, and if you're using this with things like Percival and that, it's actually even more valuable. So I really like Princess Tina. And then we have Tanya, the Shadow Enforcer. 3-drop 3/1 Ambush Bane. Really like this card too, just giving a bit more ambush and bane to Sword, which of course they probably have a lot of, but again, this is susceptible to things like Tenko on random targeted removal or AoE removal, so I think it's balanced out enough that this card is fine. Then we have Tycoon, a 2-drop 2/2 with the Fanfare Enhanced 7, gain +3/+3, then draw cards until there are 5 cards in your hand. So another restock card on 7, so this one might work in more of a mid-rangey deck, maybe even in a more control deck where you're just going to restock your hand after you've used a bunch of things, so not bad for a bronze, and I think that's pretty good. It's also a commander, with a 2-drop 2/2 commander will work nicely with things like cannon. So this is 1-drop Grand Auction, spell card 4 sword, discard a card from your hand, draw a card, put an ancient weaponry into your hand. Age-worn weaponry, I don't think it lets me see what age-worn weaponry is. Or was that... I think age-worn weaponry was one of the other cards, isn't it? Yeah, so it's the this amulet here. So you have both this as an amulet and you have the bronze card that allows you to get it, so Grand Auction. That's actually pretty decent, having 2 ways to pull that. So you can effectively... sorry. effectively run 6 of them, which is pretty decent with a discard and draw effect as well. So next up is Rune. I'm just thinking I'll probably put timestamps on these in the description or comments or somewhere so you guys can go through and just check out each one as you go, so that might be more effective for you guys, so do keep an eye out for that. So Rune's first legendary is Almuria, Mystic Seer. Seer Globes, makes sense. 6-drop 5/5. I love her little artwork, it's actually kind of cute. But it is, of course, Rune's legendary, so it's going to be pretty entertaining at say the least. So, Fanfare, give your leader the following effect. At the end of your turn, if there are at least 6 cards in your hand, spell boost the cards in your hand. If there are 5 cards or less in your hand, draw cards until there are 6 in your hand. This effect is not stackable and lasts the rest of the match. The evolve is, I'm pretty sure, just the same as that. If there are at least 6 cards in your hand, spell boost the cards in your hand. Yes, because that's Fanfare, so Evo. So you can actually... Wow, okay. So if you play this on 6, you give your leader the following effect. So at the end of your turn, spell boost. If you don't have 6 cards in your hand, you can always play the Evo effect. If there are 6 cards in your hand, spell boost the cards in your hand. If there are 5, draw 6. So you can guarantee having 6 cards in your hand and spell boosting. This card is actually a lot better than I would give it credit for. Being able to do that means you're guaranteed to have 6 cards. Even if this is the only card in your entire hand, this will instantly boost it up as long as you use an Evo, and considering it's on 6, you can very easily keep an Evo for this, and it can guarantee 1 spell boost on everything, so while not quite as good as Owl for spell boosting, still pretty reasonable, and it's got a 7/7 stat line on Evo, so definitely worth it. And best case scenario, if you use this, you can spell boost twice with this card on Evo if you have 6 or more cards. So if you have 7 cards, play this, you still have 6, you can use it and just go nuts. This card will be absolutely awesome to use, I reckon, if we can get some nice other spell boosting cards to go with it. Like the next card, which is the Despotent Chimera. So it's a 6-drop 6/6, so again, going for that 6-drop range. They've definitely started removing the dropping cost for spell boost because they've noticed how OP that is, I guess. So these ones are more, the more spell boost, the more effect sort of cards. So this is Fanfare, deal 3 damage to enemy follower if this has been spell boosted at least 6 times. Then recover 3 play points if this card has been spell boosted 9 times. Then gain Storm if this card has been spell boosted 12 times. So assuming you can maybe somehow spell boost this to 12 on turn 6, which wouldn't be impossible. I've seen people spell boosting D-Shift a lot more, so definitely a possible option. You could have an 8/8 Storm with an Evo point that regains you 3 play points, allowing you to even play more cards on top of that, all in a single turn, while dealing 3 damage to an enemy follower, which would pretty much get rid of most low-cost wards. So really cool, and I hope this card becomes actually a little more entertaining when we get into the games. But then we have the 4-drop Caglacia, Adorable Genius. This is the leader card. It is a 4-drop 4/3 gold. Fanfare, summon an Earth Essence. Fanfare, enhance 8, recover 1 evolution point. Evolve Earthright, put an Aris Manga into your hand. Aris Manga into your hand and recover 2 play points. So I really like this card. If you're playing it on enhance 8, you get the spell, which we'll take a look at in a second, which is actually quite good. And we recover 2 play points, plus recovering the 1 evolution point. So we're going to be basically playing this effectively with an Evo as a 6-drop to recover a point, summon an Earth Essence, use the Earth Essence to get the spell. So if you use all of those in conjunction, even as a 4-drop, you're summoning an Earth Essence and getting the spell and recovering 2 play points. So you can effectively use this as a 2-drop Evo on 4, which should be pretty decent. So we'll take a look at that spell because I actually quite liked this spell for memory. and it is a deal 3 damage to an enemy, which I liked, and enhance 4, which if you combo again with you regaining 2 play points back, you can very easily just use this as a 3 damage burst and a spell boost at the same time, so not too bad at all on that card. I actually really like it. I'm hoping I can build a nice deck with it. Then we have Mystic Rune, the 1-drop rune amulet, which is an Earth Sigil, so that's always important. If you have at least 5 play points, choose. Place a card as either an emergency summoning or a reactive barrier. So emergency summoning is a 5-drop gold Earth Sigil. When your opponents play a follower, when your opponent plays a follower, destroy this amulet. Last word, summon a Guardian Golem and Clay Golem. So this is kind of like a trap amulet, which is something I've wanted to see for a while. Trap amulets would be pretty cool, where you play them out and then they activate under certain conditions to block out your opponent's plays, and this fits that almost perfectly. And then reactive barriers, whenever your opponent plays a spell, destroy this amulet, last word, draw 3 cards, restore 3 defense. So again, another one which is great. So emergency summoning and reactive barrier are the exact kind of things I want to see. And being an Earth Sigil as well, I mean, you can trigger the last word on your own by activating them, so you don't even need your opponent to activate them, which is great. Of course, they are a bit high cost at 5, but I mean, beggars can't be choosers in that situation. Plus, it's a 1-drop Earth Sigil on its own, so even if you're not using it with 5 play points, playing it just as an Earth Sigil could be okay on turn 1, even if it doesn't really give you any other big advantage. So then we have the 7-drop Abyss Summoner, a 6/6 silver runecraft card, of course. So if you have 20 cards or less in your deck, fanfare, choose summon an Eldritch Chimera or Eldritch Demon. The cards are actually weird, I guess. Eldritch Chimera is good. I actually quite like this. It's got Ward, can't be destroyed by spells and effects. And then Demon is basically the same sort of principle, except it's a Storm card. At the end of your turn, restore 3 defense to this follower, which is good. I like having the Storm effect, and I mean, why not? If you're going to have this card in your deck, if you're going to have 20 cards or less in your deck, that's going to be hard at turn 7. Oh, sorry, less. No, that should be easy, actually. With how much draw Rune has, this card should actually be pretty easy to play. Then we have 4-drop spell, Burgie Burt. I'm not even going to go. This is just genius. We'll call it genius. Recover 1 evolution point, summon a Guardian Golem if there are at least 20 cards or less in your deck on turn 4. So remembering or less is something I missed, I think, when I was looking at these cards initially. I thought they were more, but 20 cards or less should be pretty easy. With the amount of draw that Rune has, getting down to 20 cards or less shouldn't be too hard. On 4 it might be a bit difficult, but you could use this a little bit later, say turn 5 plus, because obviously recovering an evolution orb is going to be important, so why not save it till a little bit later when you can really take advantage of it. It is a mysterious spell as well, which means it does tie in with other Mysteria cards, so I think it's got some potential there as well. Then we have the 3-drop 3/1 Unpolished Mage. Fanfare, remove all effects from an enemy follower except changes to its attack and defense. Effectively a silence card. Again, won't work on things like Aegis or things that can't be targeted or stuff like that, because obviously if you can't target it for an effect, how are you meant to remove all effects on an enemy? But should be pretty decent against things like Ward, where you can just remove that, or Bane effects, stuff like that that could be handy. Also, last word should actually work pretty well against that. Then we have the 5-drop 4/5 Peacemancer. It is an accelerate 2, draw a card, and Ward. Very generic, but pretty good. Since accelerates are all counted as spell, anything Rune gets with accelerate should be really good for the craft and very usable, so I actually don't mind this card at all. Then we have the 2-drop 2/1 Black Witch Anna. It's a last word, deal 1 damage to random enemy follower. Last word, deal 3 damage to enemy follower with the Evo effect. So basically this is a reverse Happy Pig. So Happy Pig will heal upon its last word. This one will damage upon its last word. And it has the same buff stat line as well. So it's pretty, not too surprising, but it is had its health cut, unlike Happy Pig. So that's a little disappointing. But overall, I think it's a pretty okay bronze card. Then we have Grand Spire, a 2-drop bronze spell. Deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, Earthright, deal 4 damage to an enemy follower instead, and deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. So this is basically just an extra damage card. Dealing 4 damage and dealing 1 damage are good. With some buffs to the damage output, it could actually have some good potential. Dealing 2 damage to the enemy follower on its own is actually okay for 2, so don't mind that card either. Then we have the Fate's Hand reprint, so everyone should know what this does. Draw 2 cards, subtract 0 from this card, spell boost, subtract 1 more. This, in effect, is your 0-cost draw power card, which I think is going to make a lot of the other cards not quite as OP. I mean, you might not want to run that other card that makes you draw 2 for 2, although if you combo them all together, it could allow you to mill your deck out a lot faster, which in turn would allow you to use those other cards more effectively. So maybe that could be interesting to have a whole mill rune going on. And then we just have the token that we covered And then we have Dragoncraft. So we'll go down here for a second, just take a little of these. So Dragoncraft, of course, pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of cool cards that are going into this, and Zoe, Arbiter of the Skies, the leader card, is really interesting. It is an 11 drop 7/6. I did cover this in my last video, but we'll go over it quickly again. So its Accelerate allows it to be played as a 10 drop card. It also instantly draws your card, so you do have some value of playing it as a 1 drop, and it just lowers the stats by 1 on each stat line, so that's pretty okay. And then obviously you can't use the Accelerate again because it is put back in your deck, so you do have to draw this card twice to effectively use it. But if you do manage to play it at its 11 drop status, or just after you've played it as a 10 play point, it does get Storm and Fanfare, deal damage to your leader until the defense drops to 1. Your leader can't be damaged till the start of the next turn, so this is definitely a finisher card. You want this to be ending your games as quickly as possible. Then we have Adramelch, I don't know, it's the one that Igneous revealed. It is a 7 drop 0/6 with obviously just a standard stat line on Evo, and the Accelerate 3 draw 2 card effect, which is okay. Drawing 2 cards for 3 isn't too bad for a card like this. And Fanfare, gain plus X plus 0, deal X damage to enemy follower. X equals the number of non-follower cards you've played this match, so just more support for that non-follower card thing, which, I mean, you can't go wrong with having more support for something like that. Then we have the 5 drop gold 5/5 True Dragon. So Fanfare, if Overflow is not active for you, deal 2 damage to this follower and gain an empty play point orb. If Overflow is active for you, give your leader the following effect: subtract 2 from the next source of damage dealt to your leader. I actually don't mind this at all. I mean, it gives you a play point orb if you're playing this before Overflow, so it can kind of take Sybil's place, because obviously Sybil is rotating out, so a couple days and we won't have that anymore. So this card at least fills that 5 slot gap, which we were kind of needing to be able to fill effectively, which does a pretty good job, and it has an okay effect to subtract 2 damage from the next source of damage. That could keep you out of trouble. Then we have a 4 drop 3/3 Pyroworm Commander, Fanfare, put a Blazing Breath into your hand, Evo, put a Lightning Blast into your hand, which obviously is evident by their arts, because one is fire and one is lightning. If you know what Blazing Breath is, it's just a 1 drop deal 2 damage to a follower, and Lightning Blast is a 6 drop banish, I believe, or 5 drop banish, I forget which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's a 6 drop banish. It hasn't been used since it was pretty much nerfed, because it just isn't as good. Anyway, a 3 drop 3/2 Silver Dragoncraft follower, of course. Roche, Fanfare, if Overflow is active for you, gain Clash, gain +1/+1. This card has some decent potential. I mean, Rush is good. Being able to pretty much instantly trade with a 1/1 is really great. Being able to trade up against a 4 would be good as well, so not bad at all. Then we have Dragon Sanctum, a 3 drop amulet. If you have at least 3 play points and Overflow is active for you, choose place card as either a Trample or a Whirlwind. Countdown 1, last word, gain an empty play point orb. Nice that the countdown is gain an empty play point orb, because you basically play this next turn, proc it, you get it. Then we have Trample, which is a last word, destroy random enemy follower, and Whirlwind, which is last word, deal 2 damage to all enemy followers. So it's basically either a single target removal or mass removal. It's one or the other at that point, and that's not bad for how early you can play this card. Also, I did just realize that I don't know if that card is actually, if you have at least 3 player points and Overflow. Yeah, sorry, the Overflow part's the important part. So you play this before Overflow and just get that basic effect, which is actually really good. Then we have the Hatchling, a 2 drop 2/2. If they have at least 7 play points, play this card as either a White Scale Dragon or a Black Scale Dragon. So White Scale Dragon, 7 drop 5/7 ward, and Black Scale Dragon is a 7 drop 6/2. Can't be attacked at the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all other followers. I actually like this over the White Scale Dragon, but it's nice just to have that little bit of versatility. Then we have Ebola, which is a 7 drop 7/5 bronze. Last word, restore 3 defense to your leader. Just a very generic kind of healing card, and not one I'm a fan of. Then we have the 5 drop Tail Swing spell. Randomly destroy one of the strongest enemy followers in play. Subtract 1 from the cost of the Dragoncraft card in your hand. This is where I think this card comes in handy, being able to subtract 1 from the cost of a Dragoncraft follower. Dragoncraft card in your hand, allows you to drop the 11 drop down to 10 and make it playable, which is really cool. Then we have the 3 drop 1/3 Venomtail Salamander, Bane and Ward. Can only attack if Overflow is active for you, so mainly just used as a block, which is good. Not really probably going to be used any other time, just really a Bane Ward block, which is pretty standard for the 3 drop range, and 1/3 is actually a pretty good stat line for that. Then we have the 2 drop Dragon Huntress 2/2. Whenever this follower attacks a follower with at least 5 attack, gain Bane, so just generic, standard, kill off big followers sort of card. Also can play a bit earlier. Then we're actually on to Shadowcraft. So we've only got a few more crafts to go, but we're about halfway. Shadowcraft, Mordecai, the Eternal Duelist, finally got his legendary, and honestly, well deserved. Such an amazing looking card. I wish its effects were just slightly better. So this is a fanfare, Necromancy 6, evolve this follower. Evolve this follower if it was summoned using Reanimate. That's the important part for this card. Evolve this follower if it was summoned using Reanimate. So last word, summon an unevolved Mordecai, Eternal Duelist. So it does summon itself again, which is good. If you're using it with the Reanimate deck, which most people will be, this plus Proto Bahamut could be an absolutely crazy combination to take advantage of. I wish its Evo actually got more stats, because having it just be a generic 7/7 is okay, but it would have been nice if it was buffed a little bit. But overall, I think it's got some potential. Since it is going to be evoed on the Reanimate, it will have Rush, so while it can't go face for Storm damage, the Rush damage should be enough. And, I mean, with Last Word Summon an unevolved Mordecai Duelist, the odds of it being instantly cleared are pretty low, so you're going to probably get 7 damage to the face anyway. Then we have Fairy Spirit Maiden. This is the leader card. It's a 2-drop 2/2 fanfare. If this is your 10th turn or later, perform Burial Rite 2 times. If you perform Burial Rite 2 times, give all other allied followers the ability to attack 3 times until the end of this turn. To perform Burial Rite 2 times, there must be at least 2 open spaces in your area after this follower comes into play. So to perform this effect, you need to have those 2 spaces open for the Burial Rites to take place. So basically this will take up 3 slots on your board and allow the other 2 followers on your board to attack 3 times, which is actually pretty decent. If you can stick, say, a Mordecai down, it's going to be able to attack for 21 damage on its own if you play this on turn 10 or later, obviously, so really like this card. Otherwise, it is just a generic drop and probably not worth it, so, I mean, it's going to be interesting to try out. And we have 7-drop gold Plagued City. This is a countdown to fanfare, transform all followers in play into zombies. Whenever a follower excluding zombies comes into play, transform it into a zombie. So this one is another kind of trap amulet, I would say, I guess. I mean, it turns every single card that comes into play into a zombie immediately. So I'm guessing that means it does negate fanfare effects and it immediately just turns into a zombie. And that does, of course, exclude zombies. I think this is actually going to be a fun card to mess around with, and whether it's going to be good or not is yet to be seen, but I think it's got some potential to at least stuff your opponent up for a couple turns. Then we have the 3-drop 2/1 Fiendish Wrath Knight, which with fanfare, gain last word, summon a Fiendish Wrath Knight, fanfare enhance 5, gain last word, deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower. So obviously it's going to get both if you enhance it at 5, so that's actually pretty decent. And even if you don't, it's going to have the last word, summon a Fiendish Wrath Knight, which is pretty good. So you're getting basically 4/2 stat lines for a 3-drop, and I like that, especially when it's in 2 bodies like this, so it's really well protected. Then we have the 4-drop 2/3 Stangen Warden. It's a fanfare Burial Rite, destroying random enemy follower. A lot of people are pretty happy with this card too, and I'm honestly pretty okay with it. Having more Burial Rite effects makes it easier to Burial Rite things, so we've actually got way more cards that we can Burial Rite, and destroying a random enemy follower while Burial Riting a card that you want to Burial Rite is actually pretty good. Then we have the Soul Conversion reprint, so we're actually getting a couple of reprints of actual cards. So these are just full straight reprints with new art. Destroy an enemy follower, draw 2 cards, which is great. I actually really like this artwork too, so I can't wait to get 3 of these animated. I really have to get those. Then we have the Fran Monster Girl, which is the 3-drop 0/1 choice card. I'm pretty sure that was a... Yeah, so they just put them out of order. That was weird. Anyway, this is a fanfare, choose. Put either a Friend's Attendant or Friend's Curse into your hand. Fanfare Enhance 7, put a Friend's Attendant and a Friend's Curse into your hand. So you can get both for Enhance 7, which is good. Friend's Attendant 0-drop 3/2. Fanfare Necromancy 6, gain +2/+2 and Rush, so just a kind of killing card. And Curse, which I think is a little bit better, is deal 4 damage to an allied follower and enemy follower. This card can only be played when both targetable allies are in play, so you can basically effectively play this as a 3-drop kill something if you want to. Because, I mean, with 0/1, it's not going to be that perfect. Otherwise, you can definitely use the 4 on whatever you want and even potentially have even more value out of it. Then we have Lady Grey Deathweaver, 2-drop 1/3, again, good stat lines with those 1/3 followers, does have Drain, and Evolve Reanimate 2, so you can actually summon something else back, which is even better, so I actually really like this card, and I hope that it gets to see it play, because Reanimate 2 is pretty decent. We had the 5-drop 4/4, Melancholic Medium, so it has Accelerate 1, Summon a Ghost, so that's good, it's an instant storm damage on just that, and fanfare summon a ghost, so again you're going to get an instant ghost regardless of how you play this card. Whether you want to play it for 1 or whether you want to play it for 5 is completely up to you. For a bronze card, I think this has at least a good amount of value. Then we have the 2-drop 2/2 Cursebound Lover, fanfare, Necromancy 6, removal effects from this follower except changes to its attack and defense. So again, this is just removing all effects from an enemy follower. Of course, this probably won't work on things that can't be targeted, and of course this probably won't work on things like Aegis, which are already immune to being affected by other effects, so that's actually pretty okay. Then we have Golden Casket 2-drop Amulet. If you have at least 5 play points, choose. Play this card as either a Profane Resurrection or a Fabled Treasure. When an allied follower is destroyed, destroy this amulet. Last word, summon a zombie. So if you have at least 5 play points, being able to choose the other two could actually be really good. Otherwise, you do just get summon a zombie as soon as another allied follower is destroyed, which effectively gives this a pretty decent effect round. So the 5-drop version is whenever an allied follower is destroyed, destroy this amulet. Last word, summon a lich and a zombie, so giving you both, which is really good. And the other one is whenever an allied follower is destroyed, destroy this amulet. Last word, draw 2 cards, restore 2 defense to your leader, gain 2 shadows, which I actually like as well. So this actually has some really good effects, and you could really take advantage of this on, say, turn 6 with Soul Conversion, or using them with Burial Rat combinations to really take advantage of Fabled Sarcophagus and stuff like that. So the next lot of cards is Blood, which we'll look at in just a moment. So Blood has some pretty cool cards. I mean, we've got the 10-drop 6/6, which is awesome. It's got Accelerate 9, destroy allied followers and amulets from each. For each card destroyed, put a random follower that costs more than the destroyed cards from your deck into your hand. This could be awesome, especially against something like Dragon, where you could potentially summon extremely high cost cards, and having Storm and Bane is really good as well. And putting a random follower that costs more than the destroyed card from the deck into play means you could fill your board with this one, which is awesome. So really like this legendary. Of course, Accelerate 9 I think still probably trumps its 10-drop stats, but having a good finisher is always nice. And then we have Vera, Knight Fanatic. This is the leader card, of course. So for Granblue Fantasy expansion, it's a 2-drop 2/2. Evolve until the start of your next turn. Give your leader the following effect. Your leader can't be damaged. This effect lasts until this follower leaves the area. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 2 damage from the cost of all damage dealt to this follower. So the Evolve effect is nice, and I think if you've watched my previous video about this card, it's actually a really good card, and I can't wait to use it. It's a really good stat line card when you consider playing it for an Evo. You can play another card alongside it on Evo as well, considering it is a 2-drop, and get all the other effects, which will be amazing. Then we have the 4-drop 4/3, Emeralda Blade, Emphal Blade, I think that's how we pronounced it. I think it's like EML or whatever, Emphal. Anyway, it is a Bane, evolves, destroy an enemy follower, deal damage to your leader until their defense drops to 10 if Vengeance is not active for you. So of course that is an Evo effect, which is requiring your Evo points, so lucky we do have some Evo regaining cards back there. But this is actually okay. I think this is going to be kind of the replacement to Belf, which is average, honestly. I don't really like this card a lot, but the destroy is good, plus you can destroy 2 cards effectively with Bane, so it's fair. And putting yourself in Vengeance is pretty decent. Then we have Gurtabilio, yeah, that's what we'll go with. It's a 3-drop 2/3 gold, fanfare enhanced 9, if your leader has 9 defense or less, follower's attack and defense becomes X equals the 20 minus your leader's defense. With the Evo, gain Storm if your leader has 2 defense or less. So if you drop your leader's defense down enough, play this card, you could potentially, with 2 defense or less, guarantee a maximum of 19 damage, a minimum of 18, and Storm it to face with an Evo. Of course, you're probably not going to be using this until a little later in the game, or you let your opponent beat you down enough just to get you in range to kill them. So this is a very kind of comeback card. You play this, you try and come back and kill them straight off, but we'll have to wait and see if that really becomes an effective strategy. Then we have the 6-drop 4/6 silver, Astern Pride, the Evo is actually sweet. I actually didn't get to look at the Evo card before, and that's an amazing piece of artwork. It is Ward, and of course this retains Ward with the Evo. At the start of your turn, deal 3 damage to this follower, so it just kind of pings itself at the start of your turn, which is okay. Effectively, you're going to guarantee that it's going to take that 3 damage, but otherwise it's a nice beat stick before that, so having a huge defense stat gain makes sense. Then we have the 2-drop 2/1 Alexandrite Demon. Fanfare, choose, put a Blazing Sapphire or Blazing Ruby into your hand. Blazing Sapphire is a 2-drop amulet. Fanfare, draw 2, last word, deal 2 damage to your leader, countdown 2. And Blazing Ruby, also countdown 2, is Fanfare, destroy an enemy follower, last word, deal 2 damage to your leader. So one's a Vengeance activator. Well, sorry, they're both Vengeance activators, but one is a draw and one is a destroy, so pretty normal for cards like that. Then we have Restless Parish, 0-drop amulet. This one I actually don't mind at all. If you have at least 2 play points, choose play this card as either a Nightfall or Madness Revealed, and countdown 1, Fanfare, deal 1 damage to your leader, last word, draw a card. So you can both deal 1 damage to yourself if you want to put yourself in a better position, or do last word, draw a card, which is also pretty decent for putting you in a good position. And then the Nightfall card, at the end of your opponent's turn, summon a forest bat, so you guarantee having a 1/1 storm, thanks to that being at the end of your opponent's turn. And Madness Revealed is a 2-drop, of course, again, countdown 1, Fanfare, deal 4 damage to your leader, last word, restore 8 defense to your leader. So this one is similar to Diabond, more so than anything, dealing 4 damage, then restoring 8 on the last word effect. It's basically a way to immediately put you in Vengeance and then get you out of Vengeance very quickly. And you're getting basically double your health back, which is always nice. So you're getting +4 on this card. Then we have the 4-drop 4/3 Devil Hand bronze card. Again, the artwork is actually pretty interesting. It starts off very normal and goes very demonic-y. Fanfare, enhance 7, deal 2 damage to a random enemy follower and give a random allied follower +2/+2. Being an enhanced 7, I don't like that too much, but I think it's okay. It could be a potential card to get used extra value, although I probably wouldn't run it myself, even though it has got a really good 4/3 stat line on it. Then we have the Cursed Branded 3-drop 4/2 Evolve, deal 1 damage to an enemy follower. If Vengeance is not active for you, deal 1 damage to all enemies if Vengeance is active for you. So dealing 1 damage to an enemy follower is good. Dealing 1 damage to all enemies is better, of course. Again, this is just a Vengeance card. I don't know if I would want it too much, considering there's probably just better bronze cards to use than this one. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. And we have Crimson Desire. This is a card I'm actually pretty keen on. It's a 3-drop card. Deal 2 damage to your leader, recover 1 evolution point. So it gives you the chance to recover evolution point. It gives you a chance to lower your stat. This card comboed with Gertabilia could work really well in combination, especially since for 6 play points you could potentially put yourself at, say, 1 or 2 health very easily yourself and get the evolution point that you would need after using all your other ones to use the Evo on it, which would be awesome. Then we have the Bewitched Succubus, a 2-drop 2/2 Fanfare, enhance 4, summon 2 forest bats. So just another forest bat summoner. I think this is kind of the equivalent card to Nighthorde. I think it's Nighthorde, the damage, summon 2 forest bats. So with the enhanced 4, you basically just get to summon 2 forest bats for some extra. Then, of course, we have Havencraft cards. We've only got Haven, Portal, and Neutral to cover now. We're not that many left, but still quite a few. I mean, there's a lot of cards to cover when you have 90+ cards and all their tokens and choose effects. So the first one is the 9-drop 6/6 legendary Gruda, Ruler of Storms. Accelerate 1, subtract 1 from the countdown of an allied amulet. So the countdown 1's an okay effect, but the Fanfare effect, if you play this as a 9-drop, subtract 3 from this from the countdown of all allied amulets. Whenever an allied amulet is destroyed, deal 3 damage to the enemy leader. Whenever an allied amulet is destroyed, deal 3 damage to the enemy leader. So same as Evo. If you play this on a board where you have an Evo point, you're playing this when there's a March Hare's Tea Time on board and 3 black jewels, which obviously is a pretty out there situation, you can actually get an OTK lethal off that. So you get 3 for each amulet, so you've automatically accumulated 12 points of damage. The black jewels deal 2 each, so that's another 6, which puts it at 18. And with the evolve on the March Hare's Tea Time, once you summon the soldier, is actually another 3 damage. So you can quite easily get a 21 damage lethal straight off this card, all of which are effect damage, so it means it does avoid wards, But like I said, the setup is insane. You effectively have to play turn 8, hold all of your black jewels, play all of them at once, then also play your March Hare's Tea Time, have a way to remove the excess March Hare's Tea Time, and hold an Evo point to play this, which is crazy, but I would love to see someone do it. And if you do, I highly recommend sending me an email, tweet, whatever, with that video, because I would love to be able to feature that as an absolutely insane play. Of course, I will try and do it myself, but the odds of getting that to go off are nuts. Then, probably the biggest hyped legendary I would say so far, at least in my opinion from what I've seen, is this Haven legendary. A lot of people want to call it broken. I would say it's definitely powerful, but I think it's still below the non-broken tier set stuff, especially with how much removal cards there are. Of course, basically infinite heals because you can't remove leader effects at the moment, so it's definitely got some crazy value to it, but it is a 6-drop 4/3 ward. Fanfare, give your leader the following effect at the end of your turn, restore 1 defense to all allies. So restore 1 defense to all allies usually includes yourself. It doesn't just include followers, so you're going to be gaining 1 no matter what. This card will work great in Unlimited and in rotation with Tenko Shrine decks, of course. I think people in my last video were a little unhappy because I think, I said it was a good card, which of course it definitely is. Normally when I say something is a good card, that means I've considered it well above the average, and it's definitely going to be a good card. And I love Tenko decks, so this is something I'm definitely going to feature. I would hate to see this card get nerfed, or Tenko Shrine to be nerfed in the future, as there's some of the more fun decks, in my opinion, that we have, and being able to use them is usually the most fun I get to have in Shadowverse at the moment. So hopefully they don't become too busted and there's enough removal to counter them, which, in my opinion, there definitely is. It's just a matter of teching the right cards for the matchup. So if Tenko does run rampant, I'm sure people will be able to find a way around it. But overall, yeah, this card is amazing and I can't wait to run it. I'm definitely going to be crafting 3 of these up if I don't draw them. Then I get the 8-drop Timaeus Purge. I love this card. Timaeus was one of my favourite cards back in the day when that was one of the basically staple cards of Haven, and I really hope this one does well as well, especially with Banish all followers. I mean, if you've set up a Tenko board and you've already played your healing cards, you can then just drop this Purge down and be like, yep, done, hit face for God knows how much damage, and you could be happy for turn 8. Then we have the Holy Priest Laura, so it's a 2-drop 2/2 choose effect. The choose effect only takes place on Evo, so choose, put either a Holy Water or a Iron Fist. Of course, they're special ones. So Holy Water, restore 2 defense to an ally, draw a card, and Iron Fist, deal X damage to an enemy follower. X equals the attack of the strongest allied follower in play, which you can basically guarantee is 4, considering that's going to be Evo'd. You can guarantee it's going to be at least 4 minimum when you play this card, or just save it till later and use it. Then we have the 3-drop 2/3, so Pilgrim Sophia. Evolve, randomly summon a copy of an allied follower that has been destroyed during this turn. Effectively a short-term burial rite effect. It does allow you to revive something. Whether that something is good or not, that's up to you. It also has to be played along with it, of course, so hopefully you get set up on a really good card, bring it back the turn after, that sort of thing, but we'll have to wait and see. Then we have the 3-drop Prism Swing spell card. Deal 4 damage to an enemy follower. Put a Holy Lion Crystal into your hand. I think this is the only Holy Lion support card in the entire set. I mean, it's nice that we're getting 1, but it's pretty crazy that they did just drop that whole archetype almost instantly. I'm hoping next set we get to see at least 2 to 3 Holy Lion Crystal cards that support them in some way. And I'm really hoping that Holy Lion Crystal has a chance, as I would have loved to have seen that be a pretty effective deck. I honestly think actually this has more value in Take 2 than in rotation at the moment. Plus, we have Father of Punishment, a 1-drop 1/1. Someone pointed out this card looks exceedingly wrong with its base art, which I can't deny. That is an odd positioning, isn't it? But it has an Evo, destroy an enemy follower or amulet, so basically low-cost amulet removal. I mean, if you're going to be coming up against a lot of Tenko, if you are playing another Haven deck, this is definitely worth running, and does pretty well in that regard. Then we have the Angelic Idol. It's a 5-drop 5/5 bronze. Ward, can't attack. Evolve this follower if an allied amulet is destroyed during your turn. Ward, can attack. So I actually think that's pretty good. Free Evo on it, which is nice. If you are running this in, say, a Tenko deck, you're basically assuming your opponent could kill it. So if you play Tenko, say they don't destroy it that turn, you play this on turn 5, assuming you've already put down, say, a White Fang Temple that's already getting you some value. Then if they potentially destroy your Tenko, this gets an Evo and you get a decent follower out of it. So I mean, it definitely adds that extra layer of thought that you could put into the deck. It is a bronze, of course, so I don't expect it to be crazy good, and it's definitely a high-cost turn of pretty much do nothing other than block, which Haven can actually handle pretty well. And then we have the 3-drop 2/3. So this is Bashful Adjumirgen, Aljumirgen, whatever it is. I'm really bad at saying that. But basically it's the same archetype that Moon is. So Moon is actually obviously of this bunny race, and this is just another one of those. It's got fanfare, enhance 5, gain +2/+0, gain ambush until the end of your opponent's turn. At the end of your turn, restore 2 defense to this follower. So again, it has the restore 2 defense, which is good, especially on the, I believe that's all part of the enhance. It may actually not be, it may just be its, oh no, it's just a base effect, assuming that the evolve is correct. So even if you just play this as a 3-drop 2/3, you should get heal. So it's basically just a nice 3-drop heal card that could combo with Tenko quite well as well. So more healing cards, love them. We have the 2-drop 1/3 Priest of the Wind. It does have Ward as a 1/3, and on Evo it doesn't have Ward, but it gains a 4-stat attack. So play this on turn 3, evolve it on turn 4, assuming your opponent left it alone, and you can basically beat them in the face, which is awesome. Then we have Sealed Tomb, a 0-drop amulet for Haven. If you have at least 2 play points, choose place card as either a Sacred Teachings or Forbidden Technique. Countdown last word, draw 1 card. So Sacred Teachings, last word, summon a Holy Falcon, and then Forbidden Techniques, last word, draw 2 cards, give your leader the following effect: followers can't be played. This effect lasts until the start of your opponent's turn. So that's okay. I mean, well, you can't use that, basically. Followers can't be played. If you're already playing this towards the end of your turn, it's okay. Drawing 2 cards makes it a bit difficult, but you might be able to come up with some kind of other amulet deck that takes more advantage of it. And obviously Holy Falcon is really good. I actually like this for that, because you could effectively use this in the combination I was talking about earlier, because if these are going to be 2 costs, of course, you could very easily set these. Actually no, setting these up probably would actually be too difficult. Yeah, actually these won't work the way I wanted them to, because they need to be countdown 2 to take the effect that I want, but countdown 1, still 2 damage, that's pretty nice. Now we're actually on to all of the Portal cards. Portal is one of my favourite classes. If I had to rank my 3 favourites, it would be Blood, Haven, and Portal, so not in any particular order, but definitely some of my favourites. So the first card we've got here is Silvia, Radiant Sniper. This is the leader card. I believe I looked at this before. It's a 7-drop 6/5, accelerate 3. Put a follower that originally cost 3 play points or less from your hand into play. Give it rush. Give your leader the following effect: on each of your turns, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader the first time an allied follower attacks. This effect lasts the rest of the match. Ambush. So this is important, that on each of your turns, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader the first time an allied follower attacks. So the key part is the first time an allied follower attacks. Not each allied follower, just the first time an allied follower attacks. Which I think, obviously, being the important thing it is, really shows that this card is going to be pretty good. Of course, it is a 7-drop, which does make it clunky, but maybe in Puppet you could at least get an extra ping or 2 out of it, which is good. This does have ambush, meaning you've got potentially even more damage. Being a 7-drop, it sets up nicely right before the big 8-9-drop turns. In Artifacts, again, sets up pretty nicely immediately after a 6-drop turn, so it's actually overall a pretty good card. Also, the Accelerate 3, put a follower that originally cost 3 play points or less from your hand into play, is pretty reasonable. I mean, it's okay, especially giving it rush. And since that all is in its Accelerate effect. So actually just playing this as a 3-drop is way better than anything else. So you just play this as 3, get it out early, then take advantage of it every turn. I was completely misreading that card when I was looking at it just then, but yeah. So you still get the 1 damage each turn if you attack, and that's guaranteed, which is going to be a good way to ping your opponent down. Then we have Lococo, Little Puppeteer. Lococo? Oh yeah, we'll go with that. 2-drop 2/2, fanfare, enhance 5, transform an enemy follower into a Loco's Teddy Bear. Loco's Teddy Bear we'll look at in just a sec here. We just got to go to it because it's at the end, which is super frustrating they put them there. So, Loco's Teddy Bear. At the start of your turn, put a puppet into your opponent's hand. Of course, since you've given this to your opponent, they'll be putting a puppet into your hand. It also transforms something into a 1/3, which is very manageable to kill, so playing this late game could actually give you a reasonable advantage, or even mid game could give you a reasonable advantage. There are a few more cards here that we're going to have to look at in the tokens, but we'll get to those as we go. So yeah, they've added the extra gold that was missing earlier, but that's fine. This is a 5-drop artifact spark gold. Transform an artifact card in your hand into an artifact spark. Deal 4 damage to the enemy leader. This card can only be played when a targetable artifact card is in your hand. So transforming an artifact card is definitely looking for one of those late game plays. You could play artifact spark at least twice pretty easily, gain 8 damage off it, which is nice on turn 10. Potentially this has the chance to get you some offhand lethals that you wouldn't normally get. Of course you do have to sacrifice artifacts, so you're probably running it in a more mid-rangey deck than, let's say, just a flat-out artifact deck. You want to plan for this card, or maybe even just wanting one of this card could work in your favor. Then we have Paraculus, which is a 2-drop 2/2 evolve effect. Choose, put either a Guard Form Golem or a Strike Form Golem into your hand. Guard Form Golem is a 2-drop 3/3 ward, fanfare, enhance 4, gain +1/+2. And a Strike Golem is a 2-drop 3/3 rush, fanfare, enhance, gain +2/+1. So they just swapped the attack gains back on the enhancers and basically named them different followers and gave them, of course, ward and rush respectively. I think the ward is probably the better one overall for me, but I mean, it gives a nice little bit of reach, and that's the main thing. I would like to have something with a bit more reach in decks. Sorry, now of course we have the Outworld Invader, a 6-drop 5/6 Evo, evolve, banish all enemy followers with 3 defense or less. Awesome, more removal, more mass removal. 3 defense or less means things like Forest should be hit pretty hard, things like other portal decks should be hit pretty hard, stuff like that will be very easy to deal with. Then we have Captivating Conductor, a 5-drop spell. Select 2 followers in play, deal X damage to the first follower and Y damage to the second follower. X equals the attack of the second follower and Y equals the attack of the first follower. This card can only be played when 2 targetable followers are in play. So you can have this either force an attack between your card and your opponent's, or you can also use this card to force your 2 opponents' cards to attack each other, which could potentially get you a 2-for-1 off this single card, which I actually like, and it's a very interesting way to handle a card, and I'd love to see more effects that follow this style. Then we have the 4-drop 4/3 Nicholas Stalwart Inventor. This is a fanfare, summon a Go-Go Rombi, fanfare enhance 8, subtract 3 from countdown of all allied Go-Go Rombi amulets. So we'll go take a look at those, because those were the other 2 tokens at the end of this portal. And the first thing is, of course, the Go-Go Rombi, because this is the amulet that you get off it. So it's a countdown 3 last word, summon a Rombi Steel Warrior. And then the Rombi Steel Warrior is a 5-drop 5/5 ward. That's pretty much it. It's very generic, but it makes sense. This is also classed as an artifact card, so it can be abused as such. You can take advantage of, obviously, Cannon and other cards like that to really take advantage of the artifacts. It's also one of the first humanoid artifacts we've ever had, which is really interesting. Then we have a 5-drop 4/4 Endrakid. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, artwork's awesome. It's got ward and it's got fanfare. Put a Gilgamesh in your hand. Gilgamesh is a neutral card, I believe, from memory, and it's really cool that we get a card that puts a Gilgamesh into our hand if Resonance is active, so nice. I actually like seeing cards like that. Then we have a 3-drop 3/2 Jessica Cheerful Cannoneer. This is a fanfare, give +1 to +1/+0 to an allied Portalcraft follower. If that follower can be targeted, the opponent can only target that follower. So, pretty normal. It does give a nice way to guarantee targeting on a certain follower, which could work out in our favor quite a bit, but I reckon, again, this is probably something that will be used in Puppet more than Artifact. Artifact already has trouble fitting cards into their deck just because there's such a fine line for Artifact decks on being a good amount of Artifact cards being pumped into your deck and good cards being pumped into your deck to having your ratios be right, which is always important. I think Portal has a lot more versatility when it comes to that because there just isn't a decent mid-game yet that can really be taken advantage of and secure your games. Then we have Ancient War Machine, a 2-drop 1/4, love that stat line. When an allied artifact follower comes into play, this follower gains ward, so even better, it gains ward. This card, I think, has a lot of potential, especially considering it's a 1/4 stat line with a 3/6 Evo, which is awesome. I just really love that this card has such high stats. Play this on turn 2, guarantee at least a double trade on it, which is awesome. Ancient Apparatus, a 1-drop amulet for Portal. If you have at least 1 play point and Resonance is active for you, choose, play this card at either an Artifact Squadron, or an Artifact's Glow. Countdown 2, at the end of your turn, randomly put 2 of the following cards into your deck: Mystic Artifact, Radiant Artifact, Prime Artifact. So all your high cost artifacts, which is awesome. I actually really like that. Being able to put your high cost artifacts in your deck could be very, very important. So you could build a deck just around those high costs. We didn't really have any cards that just threw high costs guaranteed into your deck, so I don't mind that. Artifact Squadron, at the start of your turn, put a random artifact card that costs at least 3 play points from your deck into play. Again, guaranteeing those high cost ones get put into the board, which is awesome. Oh, sorry, into your hand, because it's from your deck to your hand. And Artifacts Glow, whenever you play an artifact card, restore 1 defense to your leader. So kind of an accelerate, but in the same sense that you're gaining health instead of gaining rush. The only awkward part about this card, of course, is that it's an amulet, meaning it does take up an amulet board slot, which sucks. So overall, I think this card has a lot of potential and may actually be the room that we need to develop a control portal deck in an effective manner. Then, of course, there's just the tokens for the teddy bear and the other 2, which we've looked at. And we are on to the last lot of cards, the neutrals. I just want to say, finally, over the course of all these cards, a lot of them are what I would consider well balanced and well set out. There are a few cards that may become issues in the long run, which is fine. I don't think anything is super overpowered. I think they're all quite nice and well balanced, and we've definitely seen a higher power curve than the last couple of expansions, which was to be expected once the 2 real big powerhouse sets rotated out of Rage of Bahamut and Tempest of the Gods, so it's not too surprising. So we'll look at this neutral, and we've got a 9-drop 8/8 Proto Bahamut. This is one of the first cards revealed, and I did cover it, but it is an Accelerate 7, deal 3 damage to all followers, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. Sorry, deal 1 damage to the enemy leader. Sorry, yeah, we'll get that right. And then it's got the exact same effect if you play it as a 9-drop. It just activates at the end of turn instead of immediately. And, of course, the Evolve retains the same effect. So, this is the card you want to be reanimating, in my opinion. This is going to be awesome to be able to be reanimated. Especially being a 9-drop, it's going to be pretty sweet to take advantage of. Then we have the Legendary Fighter. The 2-drop 2/2 neutral was only revealed with all these cards going up, and honestly, we've already had the normal fighter, if you guys have seen that little bronze card in the past, and he finally got his own legendary card. But he is a, whenever an allied follower evolves, gain the ability to attack 2 times per turn. Whenever you play a gain Bane, and whenever you play an amulet, gain Rush. At the start of your turn, gain +8/+8 if this follower has the ability to attack 2 times per turn, Bane, and Rush. Of course, all of those abilities are permanent, so everything you do will automatically retain on this card. Whenever you play an amulet, gain Rush is okay. It's just got so many conditions and so much set up, and needing to survive until the end of your the start of your next turn means your opponent gets a whole turn to answer it, which I like that your opponent has a chance to answer it, but its stats don't reflect that, which is a little unfortunate. If one of these were gain Ambush, this would be an absolute monster. Then we have the 2-drop 1/1 Lyria, the actual, the mascot of the set, basically. And the only time we've ever had a gold be the mascot of the set so far. It is Fanfare. The next time damage is dealt to this follower, reduce that damage to 0. Fanfare, enhance 8, put a random neutral follower that costs at least 7 play points from your deck into your hand, recover 7 play points. So this works really nicely in the way that you can basically use this as a tutor on enhance 8 and then gain 7 play points back, basically making this a 1-cost card. And the normal Fanfare is actually pretty decent as well, because the next time damage is dealt to this follower, reduce that damage to 0. You get both of these effects with the enhance 8, so really good. Then we have the Seraphic Blade. Obviously Seraph coming back because we needed that. Destroy an enemy follower or amulet that costs 2 play points or less. Enhance 6. Destroy an enemy follower or amulet instead. Great way to deal with brambles. Great way to deal with Tenkos. Obviously Tenko will have to use enhance, but overall just a great way to deal with amulet cards. Followers, not really worried about, but definitely a good way to deal with amulets. And of course the follower effect is still pretty good as well. Then we have the 6-drop 4/4 Catalina Sky Guardian. It's just a ward and cannot receive more than 3 damage at a time, which means it is guaranteed to survive at least 2 attacks overall, whether it's from a spell or not, which is pretty decent for a ward. Then we have a 2-drop Genesis of a Legend. This is a silver amulet. Countdown to 3 at the end of your turn. Give a random allied follower +0, +1, and Bane. Great that you get that Bane effect. I think that has a lot of potential, and because it's at the end of turn, it constantly buffs. This could work in any kind of buff deck, any kind of aggro deck, any kind of control deck. Overall, it can work in any deck. It's just a great versatile card. Of course, do you want to use this as one of your card slots? Probably not, but I'm sure there'll be decks that will take advantage of it. Then we have Rackman Airship Pilot, a 4-drop 3/3. Whenever this follower attacks an enemy follower, deal 3 damage to the follower before it can deal any damage in return. Then we have the 3-drop 2/2 Luane of the Bro family. This is a fanfare. Put an Elsium of the Bro family into your hand. Elsium of the Bro family we will take a quick look at while we have the chance. Yeah, so we actually got the Elsium of the Bro family, Storm, fanfare, put a Tomomi of the Bro family into your hands. This is actually a Storm for 3, which is okay. And the Tomomi of the Bro family is a 3-drop 1/3 rush, fanfare, put a Human Pyramid attack into your hand. Human Pyramid attack is a 9-drop 5/6 rush ward. Whenever this follower attacks, randomly give +1 to all allied followers or restore 2 defense to your leader. So randomly give +1 to all allied followers or restore 2 defense to your leader. So I'm guessing you get to pick whenever a follower attacks. But that's really confusing. So if it was randomly and then like comma give all allied followers that or that, it would make sense. But randomly give that or yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing it'll be randomly give +1 +0 to all allied followers. Yeah, I'm guessing that's how it would be. Randomly give +1 to all allied followers or restore 2 defense to your leader. That's how that would work. So you get one of those 2 effects whenever this follower attacks, which is okay. Of course, it takes a lot of setup on that card. I mean, you've basically got to play the first 3-drop card, the next 3-drop card, the following 3-drop card, all the way through. I mean, it's definitely a lot of setup to get to that 9-drop card. Then the final card for the entire expansion that we're looking at is Investigation. Draw a card, enhance 6, draw 3 cards instead. Just a pretty generic draw card and a very simple one, but I think it's got some potential being a neutral to at least add some draw to decks that might need it. And that does wrap up this entire video. It was quite long, and if you watched right to the end, I applaud you, but that will conclude it. I normally would split these up into classes and stuff, but I thought we'd just cover everything at once. I'll put in some timestamps to make it for you guys easy to view it, and hopefully you enjoyed it. So, till next time, see ya.